We have to remember, as servants, quote unquote saints of the Most High, that even if we're right when trying to teach somebody or correct somebody, we have to take into account our approach. And we have to, we have to balance things. We have to deal with different individuals in different ways sometimes, different situations in different ways sometimes. We have to use wisdom. And wisdom, the fear of Yahweh, is the beginning of wisdom. But the fear of Yahweh is to hate pride, arrogancy, the froward tongue, takbukot, all that. So it's safe to say pride and wisdom cannot coincide. They cannot coexist at the same time within the same person. So even if we're right, and that's why we have to meditate not only on the Torah, but on the Mishlei, the Proverbs, because they deal with performing the intricacies of certain laws, especially pertaining to the neighbor, dealing with our neighbors, controlling your anger, controlling your tongue, knowing when to speak, knowing when not to speak, knowing who to be like, who not to be like, who to be friends with, stuff like that. So we have to be mindful when even if we're right, if somebody's coming at us with pride and arrogancy, in that moment they have no wisdom. So there are certain peoples, and they show themselves, they're combative. Even if they're unlearned, they don't have a willing heart to learn. So a lot of people, we just, say what we gotta say and keep it pushing. And they gotta prove that they want this, that they want to learn. But even if at the same time with us, the ones teaching, and I don't think of myself as a teacher, I'm still a student. And I give information as it comes. And I weigh out different things to get the right, the right thing, to get to full truth. Even as people that are trying to wake people up or teach them something, we have to conduct ourselves in a particular manner also. We have to come with humility also. We have to, we have to make sure we're not pushing people away. Even if we're right, we can be wrong in that moment. We can be right in what we're trying to teach, but then we break a law, we break a mitzvah, we break a commandment, a statute, whatever, in how we deal with that person. Especially if that person is righteous or seeking righteousness and seeking truth. And you may have been the bridge for this particular law that they may have wrong or they're trying to find truth on. And you were the bridge to get them there. But the way you dealt with them, the bridge crumbled and broke. And they fell. Likewise, you fell. Because you can get all these other laws correct, but what's in that 10? Honor your parents, love thy neighbor as yourself. We're not supposed to hate our brothers in our heart. We're supposed to righteously correct and rebuke in love, with compassion, with patience, as the Most High had patience with us when we were in our folly and our wickedness. And we can have all the knowledge, we can memorize the Torah, but we have to still perform it. A lot of us miss the mark when it comes to our neighbors, when it comes to the poor, the widows, the fatherless. We put our knowledge, we kind of make ourselves our own Elohim. And we make our pride our quote-unquote God. Like, we can't be wrong. You can be 100% right, but you're wrong in how you dealt with that person. So now you're wrong. You know? And that goes for me too. You know, it's something I've learned over the years. You know, I used to not know how to deal with all the energy, the new energy that I was getting. You know, I didn't know how to control myself, my anger. I didn't know how to deal with, you know, certain traumas I gained, certain habits or ways I dealt or talked or spoke due to my environment, due to my household, maybe issues with my parents, issues with my siblings, my older brother. And, you know, I had to learn how to, you know, break certain cycles. I had to be the one to learn to control my anger, my spirit. Because better is a man that controls his spirit, that contains anger, than a king that conquers many cities. You must conquer yourself. And I'm still working on that to this day. You know, still working towards perfection. It's something we all got to work on daily, because you can have it and then you stop practicing, you stop studying, you stop doing the things to work on yourself, and then you fall backwards. So, like, even on myself, ways I might, especially if it's a day that I didn't get much sleep and that I get easily more triggered. And I may not respond to things as I usually would, even if it comes to family members. And, you know, I gotta check myself, even when it comes to, you know, my woman. If I said something wrong or didn't react in the right moment, in the right way in that particular moment, and I gotta check myself. You know, I'll think about it later. And, you know, I gotta just move on, be like, I could have dealt with that a better way. I could have, you know, and so the next time, even if we're dealing with a stranger that you don't know, or you're unrighteously judging somebody by their appearance, or you didn't help somebody when you could have. You know, I myself and all of us have to keep in mind, we have to keep refining ourselves. We have to continue working towards our so-called temple being made of pure gold, pure silver. Not being base men, base people. We have to remember even people such as Saul, who was anointed with the Ruach Kadosh. That, you know, he went off, he disobeyed. Obedience is better than sacrifice, he disobeyed. Rebellion is as witchcraft. Even someone like David, anointed with the Ruach, a man after the Most High's own heart. And, you know, he let maybe it was pride in that moment, his power, maybe it got to his head, maybe he felt like he was immortal, because he technically was, when he was right, you know, in battle, and as long as he was righteous and on point, Nobody was taking David down. He probably wouldn't even lose men as long as everybody was on point with the Most High. But we can't let that. That's why a king must have the Torah, write his own copy of his Torah, have it on him, and meditate on it day and night, so he does not think himself above his brothers. He is still a man. The king is still a man. A Messiah people are waiting on is still a man. In reality, we shouldn't be waiting on the Mashiach, the seed of David. We should be waiting on the Most High. But he will use whom he will use for his purpose also. But even people such as them, they had to check themselves. They had to constantly make sure they're on point. So we always got to reflect, you know. And I'm not perfect, but I am closer to perfect than I've ever been, and I'm still seeking perfection. Every day I look at, hey, maybe I could have did this, maybe I could have, you know, maybe I could have said this, maybe I could have said this a different way. Maybe I should have, you know, realized, you know, I got a lack of sleep, and I'm more likely to snap on somebody, even if it's not that deep. And, you know, maybe knowing that ahead of time, I should have been prepared to, you know, if something triggers me, slow down, take a deep breath, think before reacting. No. So if I've ever, like, you know, if I've ever, you know, come at somebody the wrong way, or it was deemed I came at somebody the wrong way, because, you know, the truth will hurt somebody. The truth will hurt feelings, especially when it's coming at people's religions, because that's what the prophets did. They told y'all, stop worshiping these people, stop doing these practices. And the people hated them. They wanted them to not speak destruction coming to them, and they're trying, and it's coming in love. They don't want you to die. They won't want you to be in the wrong shit. And people hated them. They wanted to kill the prophets. They beat on some prophets. But that comes with the game. So, but you know what I'm saying? If I ever did, you know, that's not my intention. Now, if it's a straight wicked person, you a murderer, you a rapist and shit, or you getting the fire. You know, some people, some situations, you gotta be water. Some you gotta be fire. Balance. The Most High loves just weights, righteous scales, and that's not just with dealing with commerce. Somebody buys something and you don't give them the right weight that they paid for. You know, it's also dealing with balance of yourself, not being too far to the left, not being too far to the right, being that middle ground, that straight and narrow path, which is the Torah, which following Torah makes us balanced. Righteous judgment. So yeah, I don't mean to come off, if I do come off a certain way. Sometimes I do, because some people need it. Some people need certain words in certain situations call for different approaches. So I don't apologize for speaking the truth. I don't apologize because the Most High called me to. Man, you know, I was built for this. I was made for it, and I'm not gonna bite my tongue on wickedness. But when it comes to teaching, you know, we have to make sure we have to be mindful on how we approach certain things, and that's me included. So I apologize to anybody if I did, you know, offend or come the wrong way, or even if it seemed I can't. My intention isn't to, you know, bring people down. It's to break down your sin to bring you up to the right way. You know? And if I'm hated for it, I'm hated for it. But, you know, it's my journey. I'm constantly, you know, I'm still a student also. So yeah, all praise to the Most High, Yahweh, Yahweh Kad, Baruch Atah, Yasharal, Israel, You know, shalom.